Good morning, everyone. 我是博元老师组的王子倩. So my thesis is about reimagining an elementary school through COVID-19. So what I'm going to do is to transform a 100-year-old elementary school into a flexible use of space. Now, today, I'm going to cover this in 3 different aspects. We're going to go through the topic study and how I really create that into a space, and a simple reflection on what we might learn from this study. Originally, my thesis was actually about discovering the relationship between a public and a personal sphere, especially when we're in Taiwan and a culture of collectivism. We focus on unity more than individuals, and this also applies when it comes to spaces. So I thought within the issue of the pandemic, it really seek a chance and as a possibility to rethink about how we use our spaces, especially in the public sphere. During that topic issue studying, my professor, Brian, suggested me to read upon this paper by Habermas, The Structural Transformation of Public Sphere. And here I quote from the study about it. It says that Habermas contends that it is not class that bind participants of the public sphere, but instead a mutual will. And it really reflected upon my thesis that perhaps by separating these people, creating that social distancing does not mean that I am also destroying a public sphere. A public sphere could also have different forms that may not look the way we have right now. I went into the other studies that provided my design guideline. Here are a series of BBCs. So what it's saying is instead of really separating each children, remaining that social distancing, it would have been a lot more practical and reasonable to part them into smaller groups and to limit the people that they can actually encounter during the day. On the other part is that I'll be able to have the campus zoning into certain areas instead of opening the whole campus. So here's a diagram on what I'm trying to do. The design will be focusing on the children instead of the convenience of the teacher. Here's my site analysis. Yongle Elementary School is located at Dadaocheng, which is famously for the Old Town Taipei, and Yongle Market for importing and exporting fabrics, in which fabric will stand a crucial part in my design. Most elementary schools in Taiwan were facing a decrease in childbirth, which people see it as a crisis, but really it provided a chance to release more spaces to each student. Okay, we're moving on into my first proposal. Quite directly, you think of marginalizing the classrooms. You build this real fast safety house for the students, but it didn't work. And the reason that it didn't work is that if the safety houses as classroom were meant to let students be isolated, why don't we just stay at home? If we're going into school, the purpose is really to see your classmates, it's to social. If we just want to learn, there are tons of ways to learn online. Therefore, my proposal is that if we're really pulling people back into school under lighter circumstances of a pandemic, we should really allow them to see each other, but limit the amount of people that they see. Here's a transformation of my floor plan. This one was the original one, and then move on, I went into zoning so that there are different sections and different areas that could be used, and went on into softening the edges because the zoning one I seemed too controlling in a way. And the last one was to bring the landscaping inside so that an elementary school could be more of a gardening and more open, relaxing language of grammar. Here's a diagram of my plan A, plan B, and plan C. You see the original one was marginalizing and into little cells. The second one was zoning and eventually went into a landscaping gardening. Here now I'm gonna explain how I create my floor plan and how I'm gonna set an order in the such free form concrete slabs. First of all, I aligned all the vertical circulations, which means a staircase and everything. The purple one here are the vertical circulations. I aligned them to create my zoning areas, where there will be 4 zoning areas. And eventually, the classrooms here were connected. I chose to knock off one and keep one, knock off one and keep one to create more distance to each classroom. Eventually, it's gonna be it's like this. The school structure originally has kindergarten on its west wing, and mostly faculty offices on the east wing. So really what I did, exploding the program of this project, but I actually followed the original idea of it. And within that done, these vacant spaces now provided 2 other classrooms to have 1.5% more of space use. And plus, I knocked down the side walls to create it into a more transparent view so that the whole school, from being very concealed, now it is open. A little principle behind how I design all my gardenings, I grew everything upon the east, north, and west wing so that every wing could be used singly. Also, it has its own outdoor area. So from before, we can see the original sports field had this very plain concrete slab, which we all know Taipei rains 70% of the time, especially during winter, and during summer it rains to 30 degrees. What before provide is a very hot and harsh temperature experience for people. A moment ago, I was on the outside on the sports field, and then I go indoors. That transfer is violent. But during the after, I really created as if the whole school is a big pavilion and a garden, so that not only it is environmentally more friendly, but also an experience. It would have been a lot more comfortable place to go through. Here's an entrance of my design. In response to our social distancing, I created a linear entrance. So kindergarten could have entered here through the zone, and they have to get in here to walk through the pass. On purposely, I set a water deck in between of my floor plan and my entrance as a separation because, if I just deconstruct the whole program, it would have been very difficult to do security control points. By using this water deck and all my vertical circulations as security point, as organic or as crazy freeform my floor plans may be, people using this architecture all have to eventually go through the security points that I've set for them. They couldn't just run in and wander everywhere. Now here's a rendering of what my classrooms and indoor might look like. This is when fabric really comes in. Fabric is a material that it's easy to sanitize. Where I built my marginalized project A, imagine how could you clean every little cell into details every day when students left and come back. But if I use a fabric as my partition, and also there are different layers of fabric, there are the sheer ones, there could be the thicker one. Fabric has also been used as a sound installation. It may seem like the open space might create chaos, but really it works because you can wash the fabric. They're recyclable. If the pandemic cools down, then we can all reuse these fabric in a variety of places. Another point here I did is breaking down the school gathering places. Originally on campus, we would have designed a auditorium, or like in the sports field, we have the whole school gathers together. But then what I really did here, I knocked one of the classrooms off and created a space in between. This is the space in between what it would have looked like. So you can see the partitions here originally were sealed. Now they can go through and kids could just go near here. So this is like creating a semi-outdoor walkway of this area. I provided basically two types of classrooms for multi-purpose. Option A, which is my little hub, around 6 people will be in each hub. And option B will be a variation of the traditional classroom because in Taipei we rain a lot. I believe it is still necessary to provide certain secure or stability spaces for them. Here is a section detail. Above all, a reflection. This is eventually what it would have looked like inside these gardening and beautiful pavilion classroom hubs. I think my thesis's purpose is really to bring up a discussion upon the dilemma between a public and a private sphere. And my design sees COVID-19 not only as devastation, but also as an opportunity to re-examine the necessity of our traditional totalitarian spaces left by Japanese colonialism, and thus aim to transform these spaces into a flexible use of space. May our spaces be transformed. May our education also be transformed from authority being the truth. Now truth is becoming the authority.